injuries or anything?
No, we're all good. Everything's status quo. It's not available.
Have you got a update on Noah and what you guys are doing to keep him kind of engaged and make him feel like he's not so isolated by himself? I know he's not allowed to do anything.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that. I think the biggest challenge right now for him is going to be, just the pain he's dealing with. So a lot of it, quite honestly, is just rest right now. He's having a hard time sleeping. That's been a problem. I spoke to him before we left to go on the road trip. I know he's got some family coming in for Christmas, which is good.
Right.
But until we get, I think, a few weeks out, but we've talked about, once he can't even run or do anything. So there's nothing he can do physically, but a ton of film, weight room, strengthening, all that kind of stuff. And then just try to keep him as engaged as we possibly can. But we've met and we've talked about, coming at this, the direction for us is going to end up coming from the medical guys to say, okay, now the film's easy, he can do that regardless, but just in terms of when he's able to actually start to do some things, they'll have to let us know once he certainly gets checkups and things like that.
With I talked about Kobe and Josh just about where they are and their, Kobe referred to them as the dynamic duo, and he brought up a point that last year in that 15-5 run, they were playing so well off of each other. And they still think they can do that, but at the same time, the team is a little different because other guys have stepped up now. Modest, you got to feed that monster, and, Vooch is playing at a high level. Where do you see those two, and how do you see them as far as relating to the team, their importance?
Yeah,
do they have to be those guys that played at that level at 15-5 last year?
Yeah, I think it definitely would help us. I think the hard part has been Kobe just trying to get back and find a rhythm with him being out. And then I think also with him being out, him and Josh together finding a rhythm. But I thought both of those two guys last year coexisted very well. They have a very, very good relationship, and they talk and they communicate. Certainly for us, those two guys playing at a high level is going to help us. But we're going to have to also rely on the other guys too. Whereas if those guys are taken out of the game or the ball's taken out of their hands, do we have other options and other opportunities to score? And I think both those two guys are pretty unselfish, because I think Josh can beat you with the pass besides the drives, and he's gotten much better shooting the ball. Certainly Kobe's going to get a lot of attention. I think he's trying to find his rhythm in his shooting. But, when you've been in and out like he has, you can see some of the rust, when he's playing. So I think his focus right now is him getting himself back to a level where he was at towards the end of the year. But I do think both those guys are critical for us.
And then with Josh, obviously this time of year voting started for All-Star. This is going to be different because there's a world team in play, and he possibly has a chance to make that piece. When you just look at his pure numbers and the way he's playing, in your mind, this guy is one of the better 24 players in the NBA and deserves All-Star consideration.
Yeah, I totally, I get the, sometimes people look at the numbers, right? And they also look at winning. I think winning should be a driving force behind that too. I do think with all the injuries that we had, there was a huge load on his shoulders. And the thing I admire about Josh is he's really, really competitive. He is, he fights through injuries. He's certainly absorbed a lot of minutes. I think if you look at his body of work and what he's meant to our team and how well he has played and how that's impacted our team, I don't think there's any reason that he should not be considered for the All-Star team. I think he's put himself in that position. Now, our record and where we're at, there may be some other people, if they look at the winning maybe as a higher priority from others as they vote. But if you look at the impact he's had on our team since the start of the season to now, there's no question he should be in strong consideration for that, in my opinion.
And the last one for me then, with tonight, I'm sure you guys watched the film, and how do you make sure this isn't a over and under 300?
Yeah. I don't know if I should say this, but I got a great text from my dad. He just was calling, texting me about something, and he says, I think I could have got 10 last night.
How old's your dad now?
So, I think that one is both teams put a lot of pressure on each other offensively with the pace and speed. I think it's interesting if you look at the pace. that was by far one of the fastest games probably paced this season.
Yeah.
And I think both teams shot it well from behind the line. I'm sure they're looking at things defensively and saying giving up 152 points is way too much. We're certainly looking at film saying the exact same thing. We've got to be better in multiple areas. I thought we got hurt late in the game on the backboard with some offensive rebounding. I thought some straight line drives versus our closeouts were a major problem. Trae Young's a hard guy to contain and manage because he not only can, he shot it really well from behind the line, and then you couple that with the fact of the assists he's gotten. Johnson is taking his game to a totally different level. So there's a lot of matchup problems. Kongu has really improved his 3-point shooting. Krejci coming off the bench, 3-point shooting. So they're a hard team to guard. But I think we can be better in a lot of areas, and I'm sure they feel the same way. They can be better in a lot of areas.
Coach, to that point as far as the scoring, you've been involved in a lot of high-scoring games this season, some wins and some losses. Do you think that's reflective of just the modern NBA player, in the fact that most guys sort of can come in and they can shoot and they run and they get out? Or do you think perhaps at times it can be a little too easy to score and there maybe needs to be a tweak or two to the defensive rules to make it that we don't get, say, track meets like that?
Yeah, I think the rules have evened out for the defense a little bit over the last 2 years. I think there was a point there where I think everybody felt like the advantage was totally for the offensive player and it almost became impossible to guard. I think some of that stuff's been kind of taken away. I don't want to make excuses for us. We got to be better defensively collectively, and sometimes when there's just a straight line blow by, it's hard to bring help, in that situation. The ability to, on the rise of the shot, get back in transition and communicate. We got to be better in those areas. The block out responsibilities on free throws. They're a really good team that when the offensive rebound, they get those kick out threes. So I think there's a lot of things that we can control. Now, if you do a good job defensively and you really do a great job contesting and the guy makes a shot, you have to live with some of that. But some of the stuff, for us, we just got to be a lot better. And I don't really want to put it on how fast the game has gone. That's going to happen sometimes. But, for us giving up that amount of points, I'm sure they feel the same way. It's just entirely too much defensively. You're just not going to have. We were very fortunate to win because we kept pace offensively. But when you give up that amount of points, it's always very hard to win.
And when you're coaching in that situation, do you feel it's one of those games where it's like whoever sort of gets that last possession might get over the line? Does it challenge you as a coach to be like, I can't really stop anything because everyone's just seems to be hot tonight?
Yeah, we're shooting free throws with 47 seconds to go with a chance to go up 8, we go up 7, and it gets cut to 4, and they get a couple offensive rebounds. So I think what happens is the games change so quickly because of the skill set of these guys, the ability. The shot Johnson made to cut it to 1 was a really, really hard shot, and Kobe contested it really well. Give him credit. He made a tough 3. But there was some other things prior leading up to that we needed to be better at. So, the pace and the speed of the game is one thing, but I do think that the ability for these guys to play long stretches and long minutes at that intensity level has probably changed the way it was in the past. I think that's probably the biggest difference.
Is this ideal for you, Coach, that is a little disappointed in the defensive effort, to have a day off and then to play the same team? You can kind of put things into action that you saw on film immediately against this team.
Yeah, you're always going to come back and make corrections. I say this all the time. We're in a result-oriented business. I get it, right? But you want to make sure the processes leading to a result are good processes, And, quite honestly, I thought offensively we've made some strides and some growth and some things, especially when we were really struggling there for a period of time. I thought we got better at decision-making and the ball movement and the spacing. That's been better. We'll see what it looks like tonight. But sometimes, I really felt like we played really, really poorly against New Orleans. When I say played poorly, we just shot the ball so horribly we shot, I think, 49 threes. We shot 26%. But the process was right. 82% of our shots were open threes. So I get that we want to get the result of a win, but I think as you're going through the game, sometimes what happens is when the result happens, it changes how you feel. We don't need to be feeling all great about ourselves giving up 150 points because we won the game. That's not sustainable defensively. the way we tried to play offensively is sustainable, but we can't play like that defensively. And I give Atlanta a lot of credit. I'm not taking anything away from them and the actions Quinn's got him running and how he takes advantage of his personnel. He does a great job with that stuff. But the process of, like I said, the blow-bys, the getting back in transition, the blockouts, the rebounding, the free throw blockout rebounding, those are things that add up over a period of time. And, if you cut off some of those points, it's maybe not 150, Scoring has gone up in the NBA, it's going to go up. But I think I always try to look at the game as, if you cut off, the last minute or 2 minutes of the games, how are you playing up to that? Because sometimes, luck can come into play. And you can lose on a play like that. But what are the processes going through? Because when you look at it, it's going to probably be over 100 possessions on offense and 100 possessions on defense. You're going to have breakdowns. You're going to have mistakes. You're going to have really bad possessions. But how can you minimize a lot of those so you're playing a little bit more consistently to how you want to play?
Thanks, guys.
Yep, thank you.